Hi, welcome back to my channel, and I'm celebrating 50 subscribers. Yay! I mean, other people, they celebrate 100 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers or 10,000, but I'll settle for 50. And because I turned 50 this year, I thought what I'd do to celebrate 50 subscribers is an outrageously nostalgic and indulgent video, looking back at series of books that I used to collect as a child that really entertained me, and comic strips that I remember vividly. And I thought I'd share them with you. And if you also like these book and comic series, please comment below and tell me about them. So we're going to start with this beautiful tome, Mysteries of the Unknown. This had a different cover when I was a kid. It had a sort of big Loch Ness Monster kind of thing with a white background. This was given to me by a friend from Canada, I think, if I remember rightly. This might have been the Canadian or US cover. And it's an Osborne book. And it's made up of 3 different books. One about monsters, one about ghosts, and the best one for me as a kid, actually, I have to be honest, was the one about UFOs. And this was one of my favourite books as a child, and I didn't know anyone else who had it, but a few years ago, it was, the ghosts bit was reprinted for adult nerds like me with long memories, and it had a little foreword by Reece Shearsmith, of all people. So obviously it wasn't that forgotten. I thought I was the only person who liked it. But this was one of my favourite books. I was massively into mysteries as a kid. And the illustrations are so brilliant and so, look at these illustrations. Absolutely terrifying for a child, Great stuff, love it. And that's what we want. Look at that, a highwayman ghost. That'll keep you awake at night and give you terrible nightmares. And I particularly like this. There's a village, I think it's in, where is it? It's in Kent. Southeast England, yeah, which is the most haunted village in England. I used to love looking at that little display. Osborne books were great fun. There was another little sequence later on in these small, they're called supernatural guides. I like that. There's vampires, werewolves and demons, haunted houses, ghosts and spectres, mysterious powers and strange forces. Yet again with really terrifying, look at this, look at that, really terrifying illustrations to keep your children up at night and turn them into basket cases later on in life. Great stuff, look at that, really wonderful illustrations. And this was a favourite series of mine. I used to pore over this. Look at that for a cover for a children's book. You never get away with that these days. Telling you about all the vampire myths around the world. That's nice, isn't it? There you are. There's your 7-year-old boy reading that, or your 7-year-old girl at night. Look, such fun. I love them. And I never had nightmares at all. But I did. And there's another Osborne series. I've never known anyone else who had this. It was collected in this big book, the Osborne Book of the Future, which it tries to be educational, but really it's an excuse for kids to look at lots of science fiction. And again, it's divided up into groups. So you have one about robots. There's one about future cities. Let's have a look at that. Look at that, I've got wonderful art. Fantastic. Future cities. And then the final section was about star travel. And again, all these wonderful, fantastic, mind-blowing illustrations which really, trigger your imagination. Look at that. Educational, my arse. But great fun. And I adored this book as a kid. Now then, I want to turn to this series of books by Peter Haining. Did anyone have these books? I loved them. The Restless Bones, The Vampire Terror, The Screaming Skull. These were a series of 5 books, and they were all about mysteries. And each book contained about 10 or 11 true life mysteries that Peter Haining would write about in really sort of colourful purple prose. So this one is about a Roman skeleton that was found by some workmen by a road, but when they took it to a museum, the bones started moving by themselves. And this one, look at that for a cover for a kid's book. Sorry, I'll tell you that better. Isn't that marvellous? Look at that. That'll scare the bastards. This was about a group of a crew on board this ship. And the ship was found floating in the sea, and all the crew had been killed by vampire bats. And then this one is about Bettiscombe Manor, a famous haunted house in Britain, where there's a skull upstairs in this case, and if you move the skull out of the house, it starts to scream. And it's all written in sort of blood-curdling, atmospheric prose. I mean, Peter Haining, he gets every little bit of terror out of it for kids. Great fun. There's another hilarious one where some cowboys find a pterodactyl in the desert. It's all true. Another series of true life stories was collected together by Aidan Chambers. And he did these true life ghost stories, haunted houses, more haunted houses, great British ghosts, and then, of course, the opposite, great foreign ghosts. You know, foreigners have ghosts too. And this was a great... I used to pore over these books as a kid. I loved them. There was a particular story, I think it's in Haunted Houses, where a haunted school, I think, where this kid looks out the window and he can see the ghost of his classmate. Terrifying, you know. Look at that wonderful illustration there. Look at that. That's not going to give you nightmares at all. Lots of fantastic stories. It was here where I found about 50 Berkeley Square, which is a famous haunted house in London. I think it's now in the same place as the US Embassy, where these men did a bet. I think it was in the 1700s to stay the night in what was supposed to be the most haunted house in London. And this weird something comes out of the wall towards him and kills him. Great stuff. I mean, you know, I didn't sleep at all as a child, and I was fine. I wonder if anyone else had these books. They were sort of illustrated classics in abridged form. So here's another great book to give your child, Tales of Mystery and Terror by Edgar Allan Poe. It starts off with The Telltale Heart. Wonderful illustrations. Look at that. Incredible. Absolutely designed to give your child... look at that. An old man terrified in bed at night. Good stuff for your kids, this. I loved this book, and it gave me a lifelong love of Edgar Allan Poe. The other stories in it are The Cask of Amontillado, a man being walled up in a cellar, The Fall of the House of Usher, and The Gold Bug, which is more of an adventure story. But I also had 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, also beautifully illustrated. Every page has an illustration, and really good abridged version of the story for kids. So that's a little example of it. There's the Nautilus coming towards them. The Count of Monte Cristo and A Mutiny on Board the Bounty. If you're a parent out there and you want to introduce your children to classic literature, honestly, these are really, really good. They're beautifully illustrated. They're very well abridged. And I loved them as a kid. I absolutely adored them. And I wonder if anyone else out there used to have these. Now, I did a little video about Fighting Fantasy game books, but you know, I came across these the other day, which were before Fighting Fantasy game books. Did anyone have this book? This was a favourite book of mine when I was about 8 years old. It came out in 1980. Codebreaker International. It started a series of choose your own adventure books. This was another one, and this was another one. And what I like about these books is they're much simpler for children, but also you get clues in the images, and the images are really well drawn, and so you get little codes look behind people, and then if you see that, then you can go to another number and work out the end of the plot. Codebreaker International is actually quite a good story. It's set in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and you have to break some codes to find out this secret criminal organisation. I love this book. I wonder if anyone else knows this book and knows this series and enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd love to hear from you below. Finally, in terms of books, I've got to mention this book. I love this book so much as a kid. Now, what this is, I used to collect fantasy art. You know, people like Rodney Matthews and Mark Harrison and Foss and all those people. And what they used to do was, they used to do collections of fantasy art. And they used to have some bogus text in between to sort of join them all together. And this is the most bogus of the lot, and it's my favourite. And what they did was they got together these beautiful works of art, absolutely stunning. Look at this beautiful fantasy art. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. Really, you know, jaw-dropping art. That's another lovely double spread by different artists. Okay, and that looks like more like a Bob Fosse type thing. And what they did was they made out that it was like a tour brochure for an intergalactic cruise. Like, you know, you go on a world cruise. Well, this is an intergalactic cruise through the universe. And so each stop Each picture relates to a stop that you're going to go on. So this is like the mushroom planet sort of thing. And then what they tell you is that each stop, you stay at this swanky hotel, and they tell you all the things you've got. So, superb, modern, first-class accommodation, air pressurised to the equivalent of mountain level on Earth, with totally organic furnishings, windows which polarise against daylight at the flick of a switch, elevator, shoot, room service, and childminder pixie bots provided free of charge. And on it goes, and you have low gravity pools and low gravity squash courts. It's so stupid. And I absolutely loved it. I used to read this book endlessly. I actually enjoyed the text as much as I enjoyed the pictures, but the pictures are so good. There's one particular one I'd like to show you which really triggered my imagination, actually. This extraordinary picture of a statue of a spaceman towering above the planet's surface. Great stuff. And the text is really amusing. Someone's really gone to town on it and really thought it through as if they were having a world cruise through the galaxy. There's a very good painting of a man walking through some kind of dimension gateway. Great fun. And I love all the little things that they come up with that you get at the hotel. Yeah. Babysitter robot. The 5 to 20 restaurants offer every major galactic cuisine. It's so stupid. But did anyone else have this book? And did anyone else love it as much as I did? I adore this book. So that's books. I just want to finish this video by talking about 3 comic strips that made a really deep impression on me when I was a kid, and which I've not been able to locate since. If anyone can help me out below or knows what I'm talking about below, I'd really love to hear from you. I don't want to go back and buy the original comics because that's quite expensive and difficult. I don't really know the comics world that well, you know. But if you can help me find them in albums or reprints, I'd be really grateful. Now, the first of these, when I was a very small child, about 5, 6, 7 years of age, so we're talking about 78, 79, 80, I subscribed to Star Wars comic. It was a sort of like a Marvel or DC style comic with a colour cover, but inside it was all black and white. And they had a main strip, but I'm not really interested in that. That was to do with Star Wars. I'm not really interested in that main strip. What I'm interested in is the backup strip. And the backup strip, I think it might have been a reprint from the 60s or early 70s. And what it was about, it was a bit like The Invaders. Do you remember that 1960s series with David Jansen, American series? And it's about this father and his daughter, and they're on the run across America. They've realised that America has been invaded by aliens, and they're on the run, and the aliens are trying to get them. And I remember there's this wonderful strip where they go into a sort of public toilets, and this kind of robot arm comes out the plug hole and comes towards them. That's my vivid memory of the strip. I've not been able to locate this strip or find out even what it is. Have I gone mad? Did I imagine this? Did I dream this? Did it really exist? If you know what the hell I'm talking about, please get in touch and tell me where I can find it. The second strip that I want to talk about, I actually know what this is called. It's called The Mind of Wolfie Smith, which I used to think was the lead character in the sitcom Citizen Smith, but it is actually a genuine comic character. And it was from Tornado Comic, if anyone remembers that, back in 1980. And then Tornado merged with 2000 AD, and this strip went on in 2000 AD for a little bit. I don't think it was very popular, but I liked it. It was about a boy who had he had sort of occult powers, supernatural powers, telekinetic powers. And I remember him sort of standing in a stone circle, and there was some kind of occult storyline. I'd really like to read it again. I cannot find any collection of it anywhere. I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it has got a page, and there's nothing on the page. It's just a stub. So if anyone knows if it's been reprinted, I'd really, really like to know. Got something in my eye. And finally, for Doctor Who fans or fans of the early 1980s Doctor Who comic strip, this is a strip, I know it was a backup strip in the magazine, not the main comic strip, and it was called Business as Usual. And it was about a guy, he goes into a sort of plastics factory at night, and he's attacked by these toy soldiers because he's fighting the Autons. If you know Doctor Who, the Autons are these creatures made of plastic. Plastic can come to life and start killing you in whatever form it's in. And he gets attacked by these toy soldiers. And I remember the artwork was incredibly vivid and horrific, and it really left an impression on me. I just wonder if it's has it been put into any sort of album anywhere? Is it available anywhere where you can buy it now? I'd really like to know, because that strip was, I think, quite brilliant. There was another one later with a Sontaran in Egypt, and if anyone knows that strip, it was a backup strip, again, complementing the main strip. I'd love to read those strips again. I'd love to have them in my collection. If you know where I can get hold of them, I'd be so grateful. And finally, just before we go, another book collection that I no longer have, actually. When I was a kid, I got these from the library. They were called Space Hospital. I don't know who the writer is, and they were set on a space hospital, and the doctors would be treating these aliens, and an alien octopus might come in with some disease or something. I remember really enjoying them, but I've never heard of them ever again. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Does anyone know where I can get hold of them? I'd be really grateful if you know what I mean. So it'd be about late 70s, early 80s, these books. So thanks for sharing that with me. A bit of nostalgia there. When you get to 50 years of age, you start getting nostalgic. So thanks for sharing that with me, going down memory lane. And if you've read any of those book series or comic series, please get in touch below. And if you like my content, like and subscribe. Thanks very much.